Milwaukee's new M18 single battery blower may not blow you away by its new specs, but it will once you pull that trigger. Take a listen to this guy. And to some of you through the microphone, it may sound very similar with a little bit of that high-pitched action going on, but it's 54 decibels, and when you pick this up and use it, it is very, very quiet. I've always complained if you were blowing off the cars with some of the older models, you had this guy up and around your ear. It was very difficult to listen to over long periods of time, and you probably should have had hearing protection on. With this model, you'll have zero issue with that because it is so quiet. Let me bring you in and show you what they did to improve this. One of the major changes that you can see very easily on this model is the foam that goes around here. This is going to be a sound deadening foam, and it's going to stop some of the noise from the fans, and that's also going to be combined with how this tube comes down, pushing some of that sound back into the foam, and how everything kind of works together to keep this unit very quiet. Some of you may laugh at this, but I really like simplicity. There is nothing to this but a cruise control, which you have to push in the trigger, and a trigger. That is it. This is very simple. If you want to turn this guy on and hold the cruise really low, no issue. Full, there's no turbo button, there's no on and off button, there is nothing but you, a trigger, and a cruise control lever that you push forward. It is awesome. This new blower is accessory ready in the tip, but it does not come with anything, so you'll have to purchase them separately. This new blower is rated at 500 CFM, 120 mile an hour wind coming out the end, 54 decibels. The older model was 450 CFM, 120 mile an hour wind coming out. I don't know the decibels, but it was screaming loud. The big difference here is we have 5 pounds, basically 5.1 pounds in a bare tool. It feels incredibly light. Trigger is incredibly very sensitive, but also very controllable, which I think is good. So if you're just working in light areas, or if you want to move up, very easy to blip the trigger. It is right there, spot on. Now, suggestions. I have the 6 amp hour forged battery on here, and you're gonna laugh at this, but if you have shoulder problems, wrist problems, or anything, and you're using this long term, although it was really meant for, you know, small garden beds, move things around, get the leaves out without moving the mulch. It's not meant for a full yard, but here's the difference. If I take this guy and just balance it on my finger, see how it wants to push down, which is totally normal, right? There's enough power here that it will push you back. You have to hold it forward. So 500 CFM, you don't think about that a lot. But if we switch up to a heavier battery, which is what you might find on something that is a gas engine or anything else, a little bit heavier unit. Now we have more weight in the back, as you'd suspect. It's not going to tip down as far. With the 12 amp hour battery on this, it is so balanced that all you have to do is move it back and forth. You don't feel as much pushing back, and it is awesome. I can do that with very few fingers, and it makes it very controllable. And if you are looking for something that's not going to be hard on your wrist, use the larger battery. If you're using this all day, it is almost like it's floating in the air. Amazing. If you guys watch our social media or our shorts, you've heard me talk about this Makita XGT blower because it's quiet. It's fairly powerful, enough to do small jobs, and it's not noisy. It's rated at 61 decibels, significantly different than the Milwaukee. So I hit the power button up front, which annoys me. Don't know why it's there. But other than that, the only thing that we have different on the XGT model is there's a little click in the trigger that stops you from going into turbo mode. Other than that, you have pretty much the same cruise control on the side. That doesn't matter. Let's take a listen. Here's the Makita. A little bit of that high-pitched noise, but at the same point in time, it's not horrible. Here's the Milwaukee. Not as high-pitched, much more quiet, and it's a little more tolerable for when you're listening to it when it's close to you in your ears. You don't have that high-pitched area that kind of gets to you. Let's do one more time. Here's Makita. Here's the Milwaukee. It's pretty sweet. Now also, both of these units are light enough that if you pull the trigger, they will jump back. And the Milwaukee is very interesting in that also. I am not giving this any sort of no push, just lifting straight up with my finger, and the 12 amp hour battery is on here, so it's heavier. So that's the kind of force you're dealing with a little bit when you're using this, and probably why you don't want something this light and much more powerful. If you need something more powerful, the Milwaukee M18 dual battery is 600 CFM, 145 mile an hour wind. That dude has enough weight that it's very comfortable to use long term, and it doesn't push back on you a lot. Very, very nice blower. From my testing, which in my opinion is very, very pessimistic, it is not just zip tying the throttle at full and letting it go. I am varying the throttle between 75% and full throttle, going back and forth. And from that testing, I'm getting just under 2 minutes per amp hour. So that means if you were to use the 6 amp hour battery, either the Forge or this guy, either one, you're gonna get somewhere around 12 minutes of runtime on the high end using this thing just about full blast. That seems light, but if you just change it up to some normal use, you can easily get 20 some minutes out of this as you're walking around doing whatever you need to do. Holding there wide open, that's where you're gonna get closer to the 12-minute time. Now, if you have the 12 amp hour on here, which is a significant difference, and to me, the way this should be used, because it just floats in the air while you're using it, due to the wind and the pressure picking everything up. Now you're talking about 24 minutes of runtime while you're really moving around and doing stuff. It works well. You can use this thing dang near wide open and you've got some great runtime, and it's not hard on your wrist at all. That to me is pretty good. Now, tone it back a little bit and you're talking about 35 minutes of runtime without, that's normal use. Walking around, using it here, using it there. Now, if you're watching me outside, it is crazy windy today, so you're gonna see some very wet and some frozen leaves moving around a little bit. They're not gonna be moving that great. It's just the way this is all gonna play out. These are last year's leaves. It is March here, and it's cold, wet, and in some cases a little bit frozen. So part of the gig. I love this unit for small jobs, cleaning out the garage, no longer screaming your ears, no longer doing all that stuff. This new model is, to me, superb. Absolutely superb. Would I upgrade to it? Yes, just to get rid of that screaming noise. I would 100% hand over my old model to someone and say, yep, I'm paying for the new one. 100%, no questions asked. Using this to clean a truck off, so I'm not wiping it. I use it to blow the trucks off all the time. It just, especially on black paint, saves a lot of scratches. This thing is great to have up in the air, closer to your head, not as much noise. It is night and day different from not only the Makita that we just showed, but also from the older Milwaukee, from the Egos, from all the other ones that are out there. Can you get more powerful units? Yes, not on 20 volt. And that's just where it's at. I was gonna pull out the 60 volt DeWalt that we just went through and put it up here and kind of show you the differences in that. There's much more weight in that guy, which is good because it needs it. And I'll tell you, there's more power in it also. And there should be, because there's kind of less runtime in it and more voltage. So that's what you're fighting here, is some physics with how much voltage can you push and make things work. And that's why Milwaukee has the dual battery if you need more, and that's an absolute beast. And I think the dual battery is more powerful than the DeWalt flexible. It's just kind of how things happen in that case. It's about power and runtime, and that's, you can get crazy amounts of power out of this, low runtime. I think there's a great balance here for the weight of this. In fact, it could be a little bit light unless you're using a heavier battery. So if you hear people talking about, oh, their wrist hurts using it, it could be if you popped a 5 amp hour battery on here, or even the Forge battery. It's really light. It moves you around a little bit, puts a little pressure on your hand. Overall, love this new unit, mostly because of the noise, not the huge performance increase. You're only talking about 50 CFM. The noise level on this, absolutely awesome, and well worth buying it just for that. I'm interested in your comments. Please leave those guys below. Give us a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.